I hadn't slept properly in 4 days. Not real sleep, anyway, the kind that pulls you under and erases everything for a few hours. Instead, I'd been catching scraps of rest between shifts, blinking at the ceiling until the sky outside my window turned pale. Being a night shift nurse is supposed to come with exhaustion, but this felt different. My body ached, my hands trembled, and every time I closed my eyes I felt like something was pressing down on my chest, making it impossible to drift off. That night, sitting on the edge of my bed in the dim glow of the streetlight spilling through the blinds, I told myself I couldn't go on like this. I needed a system, something to regulate me, even if it was stupid. That's when I found the new alarm app. The reviews called it life-changing. People swore it helped them build perfect sleep cycles. It sounded like a scam, but desperation has a way of making you believe anything. The interface was slick, black with red accents. I scrolled through it, setting alarms for a routine like the app suggested. That's when I noticed it. One-time slot that was grayed out with a little warning symbol next to it. 3:03 a.m. Underneath it, a line of text glared back at me. Do not set alarm at 3:03 a.m. I frowned, squinting at it. A marketing gimmick, obviously. A creepy little Easter egg to get people talking about it online. It actually made me laugh, though it came out as more of a tired, bitter chuckle. Cute, I muttered. But something in me, maybe the exhaustion, maybe the stubborn streak that comes out when I'm too tired to think straight, made me tap it anyway. The app resisted. A warning message popped up. This alarm time is restricted. Setting it may result in adverse effects. Adverse effects, I whispered, smirking. What? Are you going to give me a bad dream? I forced it through. The phone gave a sharp little click sound, like a lock engaging, and the 3:03 a.m. alarm slid into place. My stomach tightened for just a moment, a flutter of unease I couldn't explain, but I brushed it off. My life was ruled by beeping machines at work. This was nothing. I set the phone down on the nightstand, rolled onto my back, and closed my eyes. For once, I thought, maybe I'd get some rest. When the alarm ripped me awake, it felt like I'd only just shut my eyes. The blaring tone drilled into my ears, making my heart lurch against my ribs. Disoriented, I grabbed the phone and shut it off. Silence fell, thick and sudden. Then I heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound came from the closet. Every hair on my body prickled. I held my breath, straining to listen, and there it was again, a long, dragging scrape against the wood, like nails dragging slowly from the inside. I sat up, my body trembling so violently I thought my teeth might chatter. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I forced myself to move. My hand fumbled in the nightstand drawer until it found the flashlight I kept there. My thumb clicked the switch, and a pale beam cut across the dark. I aimed it at the closet door. The sound stopped. The silence pressed in on me. My pulse thudded in my ears. I pushed myself to my feet and edged toward the closet, beam shaking across the wood grain. The handle was cold beneath my hand. I yanked it open, heart hammering. Nothing. Just my clothes, swaying faintly on their hangers as if I'd disturbed the air. I let out a shaky breath and slammed the door shut, pressing my back against it like I was trying to trap something inside. My throat was so dry it hurt to swallow. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face, hoping the shock would steady me. My reflection stared back from the mirror, pale, dark circles under my eyes, wet hair clinging to my temples. For a split second, I thought I saw something else, someone tall and thin looming behind me. I spun around, breath catching, but the bathroom was empty. Just the faint hum of the fridge down the hall. I gripped the sink until my knuckles whitened. My brain was playing tricks on me. That was all. Insomnia can make you hallucinate, I reminded myself. I'd read about it. People seeing shadows, hearing things. But then I saw my phone. It was sitting on the counter where I'd left it, screen glowing faintly in the dark. The app was open. The 3:03 a.m. alarm was still active, the numbers glowing a deep, pulsing red, like a heartbeat. And no matter how many times I tried to swipe it off, the time wouldn't disappear. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time, clutching my phone in both hands, staring at the screen as though it might blink first. The numbers glowed steady and merciless. 3:03 a.m. That pulsing red light throbbed like it was alive, like it could hear my heartbeat and was mocking it. I turned the phone off completely, pressing the power button until the screen went black. But even in the dark, I swore I could still feel it humming. I dragged myself back to bed, curling up tight beneath the blanket, refusing to let my gaze drift toward the closet. Sleep didn't come. Every creak of the building, every shift of the pipes made me flinch. My body begged for rest, but my mind wouldn't let me fall. When morning finally came, it felt like I'd survived a battle. The sunlight spilling through the blinds was too bright, too normal, as though it was covering up the night like a crime scene scrubbed clean. I told myself it had been a bad dream. The scratching, the shadow in the mirror, hallucinations, all of it. I'd been reading about sleep deprivation long enough to know what it can do to the brain. The rational explanation comforted me through my shift at the hospital, though exhaustion made me stumble through it like a zombie. That night, though, I felt the weight of dread the moment I got home. The apartment felt different, stiller somehow, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. My first move was to delete the app. My fingers tapped through the menus, hitting uninstall, waiting for the confirmation. But nothing happened. The app stayed right where it was, pulsing faintly on my home screen. I tried again, and again. The little click sound came every time, but the app refused to vanish. A hollow chill rolled through me. I tossed the phone onto the bed. Fine. Screw you. I won't use you again. I meant it. I wasn't going to open that cursed thing. I set my regular alarm for 8 a.m. the old-fashioned way and climbed beneath the sheets. At some point, I must have drifted off. When the alarm shrieked again, I knew instantly what time it was before I even looked. The same sinking feeling in my gut, the same surge of terror pressing me out of sleep like a hand shoving me underwater. I grabbed the phone. The lock screen blazed. 3:03 a.m. I hadn't said it. I knew I hadn't. My hand shook as I silenced it, but before I could put it down, the speaker hissed. Not static, something softer, wetter, like whispers bubbling through water. I froze. At first, I thought it was some kind of glitch. My exhausted brain inventing meaning in nonsense sounds. But then I began to hear it, clearer and clearer. Let us in. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. The sound didn't stop. The whispering filled the room, faint but everywhere, crawling along the walls, slipping under the door. I clutched the blanket to my chest, rocking back and forth, whispering, I'm dreaming, I'm dreaming, I'm dreaming. And then the smell hit me. Damp earth. Rotting leaves. The kind of smell you get when you turn over soil that hasn't been disturbed in years. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed at me not to. But my eyes betrayed me, drifting downward. Muddy footprints. Dark smears started at the front door and tracked across the carpet, one step after another, stopping just inches from my bed. The whispers went silent. And then so did I. The next day, I decided to test myself. If I was hallucinating, I needed proof. Nurses don't trust what they feel. We trust what we can record, measure, verify. That night, before bed, I set up my phone on the dresser, camera facing the bed. I told myself I'd watch it back in the morning, prove there was nothing to be afraid of. I lay down, my chest buzzing with adrenaline. I barely slept, just drifted in and out until the alarm dragged me awake again. My heart raced as I shut it off, bracing myself for whispers or scratching. But this time, there was nothing. Just the silence of my empty apartment. For a moment, I almost laughed. Maybe it had burned itself out. Maybe whatever cruel joke the app was playing was over. But when I checked the recording, my breath caught. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the frame shifted. Static fuzzed across the screen. And then, in the corner of the room, something moved. A shadow stretched taller than the dresser itself, lean and crooked, rising slowly from the floor. It edged toward the bed, its form bending, shaking, like it didn't quite belong in the picture. And then it leaned over me. I watched myself lying there, oblivious, while the shadow bent down until its face, if it even had a face, hovered inches above mine. For several seconds, it stayed that way, still as stone. Then, as the alarm tone cut out, it dissolved into the darkness like smoke caught in a breeze. I slammed the phone down, so hard the screen cracked. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but stay in that apartment another second. But my legs wouldn't work. My body shook violently, and all I could do was sit on the bed, clutching the ruined phone in my lap. When I finally found the strength to look again, my stomach dropped. Despite the cracked glass, despite me smashing the case in anger, the app was still open. And the alarm was already reset. 3:03 a.m. Every night. That was the moment I realized this wasn't exhaustion, or hallucinations, or stress. This was something else. Something I couldn't delete. And it wasn't going away that I didn't go into work the next day. I couldn't. I called in sick, and though I hated myself for it, I knew I wasn't in any shape to care for patients. How could I? I couldn't even care for myself. Instead, I sat in my apartment with the blinds drawn, the phone on the table between my hands like it was some venomous snake. I wanted to smash it. I wanted to throw it off the balcony and never see it again. But deep down, I already knew it wouldn't matter. That app wasn't just on the phone anymore. It had bled into me somehow. Still, I tried. I factory reset the phone. I even pulled the SIM card out, just in case. When I powered it back up, clean and empty, my heart lifted for the first time in days. The cursed little icon was gone, until the screen flickered. The black background bled red for half a second, and there it was. The app. Waiting. My stomach turned. I left the phone face down and went for a walk just to breathe. The September air was sharp, the kind that carries a bite of oncoming winter. The world looked normal. Kids on bikes, a man walking his dog, the hum of traffic. I clung to that normalcy like it might wash away the insanity eating at me. But the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. Not a person. Not anything I could see. Just a pressure at my back, a weight on my shoulders that made me glance over and over down empty sidewalks. I knew then I couldn't handle this alone. That evening, I did what I should have done from the beginning. I searched. 3:03 a.m. alarm curse. Creepy alarm app. waking at 3:03. At first it was just nonsense. Reddit threads full of memes, paranormal forums, people making jokes. But buried deep, in some old blog that looked like it hadn't been touched in years, I found something. It was a grainy article about a murder in my city. A woman had been killed in her home on October 3rd, years ago. The article mentioned something strange. The clock in her living room had been shattered during the attack. Police noted it had stopped at 3:03 a.m. My blood ran cold. The blog post had comments. Most were trolls, people laughing or arguing, but one stood out. It was from someone claiming the time was cursed. That waking at 3:03 meant you'd been chosen. That it wasn't the time itself, but what it invited. A doorway. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I brewed coffee, turned on every light in the apartment, and sat in the living room wrapped in a blanket. The phone was on the table in front of me. I watched the clock tick closer to the hour with dread that felt like poison in my blood. 2:59, 3 o'clock, 3:01, 3:02, and then the phone lit up. The alarm shrieked. 3:03. The lights flickered. I swear I felt the apartment breathe. The walls flexed, the air thickened, and my stomach dropped as the smell hit me again. Wet soil, damp and rotten. This time, I didn't imagine the sound. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate, pacing across the carpet. I couldn't move. My body locked, as though every muscle had frozen. Out of the corner of my eye, shadows stretched where there shouldn't have been any. I forced myself to turn my head. They were there. Figures. Not quite solid, not quite smoke. Long-limbed shadows peeling themselves from the corners of the room, faceless and towering. Their heads tilted in unison, like they were listening. The alarm cut off. The figures vanished. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even scream. All I could do was collapse forward, sobbing into my hands, shaking so hard I thought I might break apart. The next morning, I went to the library. Something about the computer at home felt compromised. I needed neutral ground. I searched deeper. More articles, more whispers. Some people called it the 3:03 curse. Others claimed it was older, tied to rituals, sacrifices, doorways between worlds. Most of it read like lunacy, but one piece of advice repeated again and again. Don't acknowledge them. Don't let them know you can see them. It was already too late for me. Another comment stopped me cold. If the alarm keeps ringing after you try to destroy the device, it means they've marked you. And once they mark you, there is no way out. I left the library shaking. That night, I smashed the phone. I didn't just break it, I pulverized it. Hammer, kitchen knife, stomping it until the pieces scattered across the floor. The screen was a spiderweb of cracks, the circuits exposed like a mangled corpse. I thought there. It's over. But when I looked at the wall clock, my stomach turned to ice. The hands were moving on their own. Tick, tick, tick. They spun wildly before slamming to a stop. 3:03. The sound of an alarm, impossibly loud, as though it was coming from inside my head, blared through the apartment. And then came the voices. Closer this time. Clearer. She hears us now. It's almost time. I stumbled back into my bedroom, clutching my ears. Shadows rippled across the walls, stretching like ink dropped in water. My vision swam, my pulse pounded, and I screamed until my throat was raw. The alarm cut off, and the silence was worse. The next day, I visited the house. The murder house from the article. It was only a few miles from my apartment. The neighborhood was quiet, old houses leaning under the weight of time. The one I wanted stood out immediately, boarded windows, overgrown lawn, a mailbox hanging off its post. I shouldn't have gone inside. Every step screamed at me to turn back, but I couldn't stop myself. My hand pushed the door open, hinges shrieking. Dust and mildew thickened the air. The living room was empty except for one thing. A clock on the wall. Its glass was cracked, its face yellowed. But the hands were still there. Frozen. 3:03. The air pressed down on me. A terrible heaviness filled the house, sinking into my bones. My breath fogged in the chill as I backed toward the door. And that's when I heard it. Whispering. Dozens of voices, layered, weaving together. I couldn't make out words, only the rhythm, like chanting. The floorboards groaned. I turned. A shadow peeled itself from the corner, tall, spindly, its limbs dragging across the floor. Another followed. And another. The whole room rippled with them, a silent congregation gathering, faceless heads all tilting toward me. I ran. I don't even remember leaving the house. 1 second I was trapped in that room. The next I was on the sidewalk outside, doubled over and gasping for air. But I knew the truth then. This wasn't about an app. This wasn't about a phone. This was older, deeper, something that had been waiting long before I stumbled into it. And I had triggered it. The final night came quickly. I felt it building all day, a pressure in the air, in my chest, in the rhythm of the city around me. By evening, the sky was too still, the streets too quiet. My apartment seemed smaller, darker, like the walls were leaning in. I didn't try to fight it anymore. Some part of me knew there was nothing I could do. When 3:03 came, I was already awake, sitting on the bed. The alarm didn't even ring this time. The figures came anyway. Shadows seeped into the room, crawling up the walls, across the ceiling. My breath froze in my lungs as they surrounded the bed. One by one, they leaned closer, their faceless heads bending until I felt cold air on my skin. And then they spoke. "Now you are ours." The room exploded in noise, alarms blaring, lights flickering, walls shaking as though the building itself was being torn apart. My body lifted, dragged into the dark, swallowed by the weight of dozens of hands pulling me down, down, down. And then nothing. The next morning, my apartment was empty. Neighbors say they didn't hear a thing. The bed was unmade, my scrubs still folded on the chair. The only thing left on the nightstand was my phone. The screen glowed faintly, though the device was cracked and dead. The alarm was set. 3:03 a.m. For tonight. And the reflection on the screen. It wasn't mine anymore.